In 1978, Glen Larson didn't walk into Universal Studios chasing trends. He walked in hiding a belief system in plain sight. What looked like lasers and starships was actually a full religious cosmology, carefully smuggled into primetime television. Millions tuned in expecting spectacle and unknowingly absorbed myth, theology, and destiny wrapped in science fiction. This wasn't imitation, it was infiltration. And once you see what Battlestar Galactica was really doing, you'll never watch it the same way again. The Council of 12 wasn't just dramatic structure, it was the quorum of 12 apostles from the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints transplanted into the stars. Kobo, the lost homeworld humanity fled from, an anagram for Kolob, the star nearest to God's throne in Mormon scripture. When characters married, they weren't just exchanging vows, they were being sealed for time and eternity, using the exact language of LDS temple ceremonies. Even the entire premise, a persecuted people fleeing destruction to find a promised land across an impossible journey, echoed the Exodus narrative from the Book of Mormon itself. Glen Larson, a devout Latter-day Saint, didn't borrow mythology, he translated it. Battlestar Galactica's universe was built from theology unfamiliar to most Americans, disguised as pulp sci-fi spectacle. Audiences felt its ancient weight and spiritual pull without ever knowing why it resonated. But that belief-driven foundation was only the beginning. The real story emerged when that vision slammed into network television, brutal deadlines, and a production already tearing itself apart from day one. Before Battlestar Galactica could become Glen Larson's theological experiment, it needed to look like the future. And in 1977, there was only one team in the world who knew how to do that. They worked for George Lucas. John Dykstra had just won an Oscar for creating the visual effects in Star Wars. He was the guy who made X-Wing scream through space, who turned models into starfighters. Industrial Light and Magic was his empire. Then Universal came calling. And Dykstra didn't just take the job, he walked out of ILM, formed his own company called Apogee, and brought several of Lucas's own crew with him. It wasn't borrowing talent, it was a raid. The risk behind Battlestar Galactica wasn't subtle, it was reckless by industry standards. John Dykstra was attempting the impossible, recreate the cinematic spectacle of Star Wars on a television schedule with a fraction of the money and none of the margin for error. Universal staked millions on his confidence, and against all odds, he delivered. The Emmy win for the pilot's visual effects wasn't a Ford Television consolation prize. It was a declaration that Galactica had pushed the medium forward. But that victory came at a cost. 20th Century Fox didn't see innovation, they saw defiance. Their former effects team had been rebuilt across the street, crafting imagery that felt uncomfortably familiar. The lawsuit that followed cast a long shadow, one that would define Galactica's reputation more than its achievements ever did. At the same time, Glen Larson faced a quieter crisis. He still didn't have his hero. After endless auditions failed, Richard Hatch arrived on the very first day of shooting, reluctant and unconvinced. Sci-fi wasn't his dream, meaning was. But something in the script spoke to him, and that last-minute yes changed everything. Hatch didn't just perform Captain Apollo, he carried the show's emotional core. And when the series ended abruptly, he refused to let it die. While studios moved on, Hatch kept fighting, pouring his own money and soul into keeping Galactica alive. There was another casting miracle, one that speaks to the sheer ambition of what Larson was trying to build. Lorne Greene didn't need Battlestar Galactica. After 14 years as Ben Cartwright on Bonanza, he was comfortably retired in Bel Air, living quietly with his family. He'd earned his rest. "It took a lot of persuading to get me out of semi-retirement," Greene later admitted. His first reaction when handed the script? How in heaven's name are they going to bring it off? This wasn't a desperate actor taking any job. This was an industry legend being convinced to bet on something truly ambitious, a sci-fi epic that promised to be more than just spectacle. His agreement signaled something. Serious people saw serious potential here. They had no idea what was about to hit them.
September 17, 1978, the night Battlestar Galactica premiered. Nearly 65 million people tuned in to Saga of a Star World. It was a phenomenon. ABC executives should have been celebrating. Instead, they panicked. The plan had been simple: 3 big television movies, epic, ambitious, and spaced out to give the production time to breathe. Glen Larson had structured the entire operation around that model. Sets were built at movie scale. Dykstra's apogee was engineered for slow, meticulous work. The cast expected months between productions. Then, the ratings came in, and ABC wanted more, immediately. Not 3 movies, a full weekly series, starting now. Overnight, a production designed for feature film pacing was thrown into a 7-day television grind, and the chaos that followed would nearly destroy everything they'd built. The production had exactly one completed story beyond the pilot, Lost Planet of the Gods, the second television movie. After that, nothing, just a blank calendar and a network demanding 22 episodes. Scripts started being finished minutes before cameras rolled. Actors were handed cue cards because there wasn't time to memorize lines. If you watch closely, you can actually see it affecting their performances. Eyes flicking just off camera, delivery slightly stiff. By that point, Battlestar Galactica wasn't just struggling creatively, it was collapsing under its own weight. The so-called Crash of the Week episodes weren't laziness, they were survival tactics. The writers were buying time, the crew was buying days, and the production was borrowing against a future that never arrived. Episodes were being filmed, edited, and dubbed in a blur of exhaustion, sometimes finishing mere hours before broadcast. It was television produced in a constant state of emergency, a miracle it aired at all. Then came the scheduling decision that sealed its fate. Pitting a brand new effects-driven sci-fi series against All in the Family wasn't competition, it was execution. Viewers couldn't form habits. Rating spikes meant nothing. Dips felt fatal. Whether ABC intended to kill the show or simply miscalculated spectacularly, the outcome was the same. Instability became the norm. The audience drifted, not from lack of interest, but from lack of consistency. The cracks spread everywhere, even into merchandising. Richard Hatch's absence from the toy line wasn't just a business dispute. It symbolized how fractured the production had become. Apollo, the emotional core of the series, erased from shelves, while the rest of the cast stood frozen in plastic. And then, abruptly, even that vanished. The toys disappeared. The show disappeared. What remained was a cult wound, unfinished, unresolved, and impossible to forget. The legacy of Battlestar Galactica was sealed not just by ratings or lawsuits, but by tragedy. The 1978 toy recall, sparked by the death of a 4-year-old and the near death of another, rewrote U.S. safety regulations and abruptly ended the show's merchandising future. Overnight, business disputes no longer mattered. What remained was the wreckage of enormous ambition colliding with reality. And yet, Galactica refused to vanish. Glen Larson's faith-infused vision, John Dykstra's Emmy-winning effects gamble, Richard Hatch's reluctant but life-defining yes, and a production held together week to week by sheer belief. All of it left an imprint that couldn't be erased. Through comics, novels, and fan devotion, the universe endured in quiet persistence. When Ronald D. Moore resurrected the franchise in 2004, he transformed Larson's theological exodus into an existential reckoning, redefining television science fiction in the process. But that reinvention only existed because the original dared to try, failed spectacularly, and lit a torch others would carry forward. And maybe that's the real legacy of Battlestar Galactica. Not the ratings, not the lawsuits, not even the cancellation, but the spark it lit. A reminder that bold ideas don't need permission to matter, and that even failures can echo louder than successes. Every reboot, every revival, every sci-fi story daring to ask bigger questions traces a line back to this impossible show. If this story changed how you see Battlestar Galactica, hit like, share it with someone who still hears the drums of Kobo, and subscribe for more stories about the shows that refuse to die. Because the journey doesn't end here. it jumps to light speed. Thanks for watching.